The galactic council chamber floated in perfect orbit around a blue-white star, its massive silver rings glinting like a jewel in the cold dark. Inside, representatives from 100 species gathered beneath. The crystal arches and echoing domes that had stood for over 5,000 years. Voices hummed in dozens of tones, deep, whistling, clicking, or resonant, but one sound was missing. One voice was absent.
One chair remained empty.
The human delegate had missed not one, not two, but 3 full sessions, an absence so rare it had never occurred in council history without a formal announcement or cause. Now, as protocol demanded, the council's central steward, a translucent being of living energy, stood before the circle and spoke in a voice like chimes in wind. The Earth's seat is declared, it's vacant by silence. The words rang out with unsettling weight. For all their complexity and chaos, the humans had never been silent. They had never simply disappeared. As the declaration echoed through the chamber, a ripple of unease spread among the attending species. The silent delegation, known for their love of balance and prediction, whispered among themselves, their leaf-like appendages twitching nervously. The Yavari, a crystalline species with perfect memory, reviewed every past human statement, action, and alliance, trying to calculate if this was a tactic or a warning. Even the Catal, warlike and confident, glanced toward the human seat with quiet tension. For years, humanity had been a powerful, if often misunderstood, member of the Council. Their contributions to diplomacy, energy science, and conflict resolution were impossible to ignore. They were unpredictable, fast to adapt, and strangely unified when it mattered most. Yet here they were, missing, without a transmission, without explanation, without trace. Many recalled Earth's last delegate, Ambassador Isha Clark, who had spoken with fierce passion and uncanny foresight. Earth was preparing for a shift far beyond the reach of politics. At the time, it had sounded like philosophy, maybe even a metaphor. Now it felt like a clue. Since her last appearance 8 solar cycles ago, no human envoy had taken her place. Her seat remained untouched, the metal cold, the Earth's sigil dim. No reassignment, no update, just silence. Speculation flared across systems. Had Earth collapsed into war? Were they victims of a natural disaster too severe to report? Had they been attacked by a force unknown to the Council? Or had they simply chosen to walk away? That last possibility unnerved the older species most of all. To walk away from the Council wasn't just rebellion, it was audacity. It suggested humanity saw no further need for interstellar diplomacy. Worse, that they believed themselves beyond it. In the quiet corners of the chamber, hushed conversations unfolded. Their trade lines are still functional, but there's no human contact, murmured a delegate from the Zaro. Their satellites remain active. Yet silent, noted another. They haven't asked for aid, nor offered it. It's as if they folded inward, sealed themselves off. That, more than anything, frightened the Council. Humanity was not known for retreat. If anything, they pushed too far, too fast, expanding into unexplored zones, challenging physics, reaching toward distant galaxies. Silence was not their way. Council members turned to data feeds, requesting the latest scans of Sol System. What they found was even more confusing. Earth's orbital defenses had tripled in density. The outer planetary belts buzzed with strange energy patterns. Deep space. Telescopes aimed toward Earth saw the same thing every time. A sphere of calm, guarded, calculated quiet. It was as if the entire system had gone into controlled hibernation. Even automated diplomatic relays, usually left on standby, no longer answered. One envoy from the Brellan Dominion tried to send a personal transmission to a known human contact. The reply was immediate but automated and chillingly neutral. This line is no longer available. Observation phase initiated. Observation phase. What did it mean? No explanation followed. The message repeated once, then stopped entirely. Not even a recorded voice, just plain simple text. The unmistakable implication that Earth was watching, but not speaking. By the end of the day, the energy in the council chamber had shifted entirely. No longer was this a minor diplomatic issue. Now, it felt like a tremor before an unknown storm. Some species scoffed, dismissing the humans as overly dramatic. Others began recalling past human achievements with new eyes, how they'd gone from primitive combustion to interstellar travel. In less than 5 centuries, how they'd survived 3 planetary crises without council aid, how they'd mastered artificial intelligence, quantum tunneling, and even rudimentary singularity containment on their own, often faster than expected. Had they outgrown the council? Had humanity discovered something they weren't ready to share, that others weren't ready to receive? Delegates began reviewing past human research proposals that the council had rejected or ignored. Stood out in particular, Project Ascension, filed 25 cycles ago. It was a theoretical model proposing the fusion of biological and digital consciousness, combined with large-scale energy conversion. At the time, it was dismissed as interesting but speculative. Now, it was being downloaded and reread across multiple species networks. The mood darkened not with anger, but with growing uncertainty. The humans hadn't broken any laws. They hadn't violated any treaties. They hadn't started a war. They had simply withdrawn. But somehow, that choice shook the council more than any act of aggression. When a species attacked, the council could respond. But when a species vanished deliberately, silently, with all systems intact, what then? What did it mean to face a quiet door that used to be open? By session's end, every other seat in the chamber was filled, but no one truly focused on the new resolutions or debates. All eyes kept drifting to the same spot, the empty chair marked with the Earth sigil. A simple structure of polished stone and woven carbon, untouched since Clark's last session, sat there, perfectly clean, perfectly still, as though waiting for someone. Or perhaps, as though guarding a secret. Above the chair, the council's vast dome projected a holographic star map. The Sol system glowed softly in the galactic west, pulsing in quiet rhythm. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had. The human seat was vacant now. Not lost, not abandoned, just vacant by silence, and for the first time in centuries. The council was afraid not of war or invasion, but of what they didn't understand, across the scattered stars of the galaxy. In colonies orbiting red dwarfs and cities carved into asteroid belts, quiet disturbance began to spread and seen, but deeply felt. At first, it was subtle. A shipment of advanced medical nanites ordered from a human-run factory on Europa failed to arrive. Then, an agricultural world in the Talith sector. Mid-process of terraforming under Earth-designed AI systems, suddenly reported shutdowns. No error codes, no warnings. Just a smooth, absolute stop-has, though the machines had simply decided their job was over. Traders began to notice that stations previously maintained by human engineers were now locked down. Their access codes were changed. Communications bounced back with blank replies. When they tried to reach human contractors or tech support networks, they received only one message. Repeated in the same quiet, neutral tone, observation phase initiated. That phrase spread like a whisper through the stars, copied across datapads, projected onto station walls, repeated in confused debates and emergency meetings, but no one could explain it. The humans weren't answering calls. Their AIs weren't responding to override commands. And yet nothing felt broken. There were no signs of war, damage, or collapse, just absence, like someone had quietly taken down the curtain between two realities and left the audience staring into a blank stage. For the first few days, council members believed it was a technical glitch or a scheduled protocol change. But when more and more systems went dark, research labs, data relays, long-range repair drones, it became impossible to deny. Humanity wasn't missing because they couldn't respond. They were choosing not to. Entire starports that once bustled with human-led innovation now hovered silently in orbit. Lights on, but no one home. Even Earth's most trusted allies like the Zinthri and Lurex couldn't make contact. One Lurex, diplomat close to the Clark family itself, attempted direct transmission using private frequency keys once exchanged in friendship. All he received in response was a calm, flickering image of Earth's defense grid activating a full spectral shield. Followed by the same message again, observation phase initiated. The Council, unable to tolerate the growing uncertainty, voted to send a diplomatic scout vessel toward Earth. The small, sleek ship named Aurora's Path, crewed by members of 3 neutral species, was launched with full diplomatic clearance and open visibility. Its mission was simple: approach Sol, assess the situation, and report back. It entered the Sol system without resistance. Earth's defense network allowed passage, no weapons locked, no warnings issued, but every satellite turned to track its progress. The ship descended past Mars, past the asteroid belt, and approached Earth itself. What they saw, they later tried not to describe. When the Aurora's Path returned 7 standard days later, it docked in complete silence. The crew disembarked, looking unchanged physically. But there was something missing in their eyes, something that couldn't be measured with scanners. The mission captain, seasoned explorer from the Vaari race known for her sharp intellect and calm under pressure, immediately resigned her post without explanation. One of the engineers, a quiet member of the stone-skinned Arcane, entered. A state of self-imposed silence, refusing to speak or interact with anyone. And the third, a communications officer from the light-bodied Halen people, submitted a report to the Council with only one sentence: "We were never meant to lead them." That single line struck the Council harder than any weapon could. It was not a warning nor a confession. It was an admission, a recognition of something far greater than they had understood. The Council gathered in emergency session. But no conclusion brought comfort. None of the crew would elaborate. Security footage from the ship was scrambled perfectly intact, but showing only static during their time within Earth's orbit. The only remaining evidence was their silence, their sudden retreat from duties they had once embraced. What had they seen? What had humanity become that left trained diplomats speechless? No answers came, only more questions. And everywhere the humans had once been, everywhere their systems had once connected, there was that same message: observation phase initiated. It played in markets, in research databases, in remote monitoring stations. The phrase was always the same, always without emotion, always perfectly timed. There was no demand attached, no ultimatum, no aggression, just observation. But observation by whom? For what purpose? Historians began pulling old Earth records, piecing together past projects and theoretical plans once mocked or ignored. They rediscovered mentions of Neuralink consciousness networks, machine-mind harmony, transdimensional resonance mapping, all buried in Earth's deep science archives. It became clear that humanity had not just evolved, they had prepared. Not for conquest, not for escape, but for something else entirely. Perhaps something the Council itself had never imagined. There were whispers now, even among the proudest species, that Earth had crossed into a new phase of existence. That they were no longer a species to be governed, but something beyond. Not gods, not rulers, but observers. And that, perhaps, in some strange way, they were now watching the galaxy not to interfere, but to see what would become of the rest. The silence of Earth had grown louder than any declaration. Their technology, once shared freely, was now inert. Their diplomats, once loud and passionate, were now gone. Their allies, left without explanation, could only wonder what mistake had been made, or what line had been crossed. And through it all, the message remained. Across stars, across systems, across every corner of the known galaxy, the phrase echoed like a soft drumbeat beneath the surface of reality. Observation phase initiated. No threats, no claims, just presence. A presence that knew more than. It said. A presence that had chosen silence as its voice. And now, the Council sat in growing unease. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy did not fear an enemy. It feared an absence that felt deliberate, an absence that had shape and weight and meaning. An absence that whispered, something has changed, and it is already too late to catch up. Deep within the hidden chambers of the galactic Council, far from the grand halls where speeches and debates echoed. A special task force convened under the strictest secrecy. This group, made up of some of the most skilled analysts, historians, and scientists from various species, was assembled to unravel the mystery of humanity's sudden silence and the strange changes that had rippled through the... Their work was difficult and strange. It required piecing together decades of seemingly unrelated events that now, when viewed as a whole, began to form a pattern too precise to ignore. The team found that human technological progress over the last 50 years did not follow the usual uneven path of trial and error or political delays common among other civilizations. Instead, it accelerated with eerie smoothness, as if guided by an invisible hand or a secret plan. Conflicts that might have erupted into full wars were quietly resolved through sudden agreements or mysterious diplomatic breakthroughs. Many to wonder if humanity had quietly mastered the art of peaceful negotiation, or if something else was at play behind the scenes. Meanwhile, across human-influenced systems, a strange shift in culture emerged, favoring simplicity over excess, efficiency over waste, and a collective focus on exploration of the stars rather than internal struggle. This minimalism spread like a quiet revolution, hinting at a mindset preparing for a great transformation rather than expansion for conquest. Most intriguing of all was the rediscovery of what the Council had once dismissed as a speculative project buried deep in Earth's scientific archives, known simply as Project Ascension. Initially regarded as a far-fetched theory, this initiative proposed the fusion of quantum consciousness networking, massive energy structures like Dyson swarms harnessing the power of entire stars, and the layering of dimensions to access realities beyond normal space and time. As the task force dug deeper, the implications became chillingly clear. Humanity had been quietly preparing to evolve beyond the physical limits recognized by the Council, aiming to exist on a plane far removed from traditional matter and energy. The data suggested they had already crossed that threshold, not destroyed or hidden, but transformed into beings no longer bound by the physical rules that governed the galaxy. This theory explained the silence, the absence of direct communication, and the deliberate stillness of their planetary systems. Instead of retreat or defeat, humanity had chosen a new path, one that transcended old forms of existence. For the Council, this realization was both inspiring and deeply unsettling. They faced the truth that humanity was no longer a species, to be measured by old standards or contained within familiar rules. They had outpaced the entire galaxy in a silent, purposeful advance toward something greater, something the Council had never expected to see. The task force concluded that humanity's apparent withdrawal was not a failure or a crisis, but a calculated step toward a new kind of existence, an existence where they observed from a different dimension, beyond interference but still present, waiting for the galaxy to catch up. This revelation shifted the entire Council's understanding of what power and progress truly meant. Humanity was not missing. It had simply become something else, something beyond the stars themselves. The chamber filled with a mixture of reverence, fear, and wonder as the members slowly realized they were witnessing the birth of a new cosmic order, one that began with the quiet, determined footsteps of a species that never announced its arrival, but left the galaxy trembling in their wake. The Galactic Council had gathered once again in an emergency assembly. The tension in the great chamber, almost tangible. Every species, from the smallest luminescent beings to the towering stone-carved delegates, waited in uneasy silence. The empty seat marked Earth's absence, still a source of anxiety and speculation, till without warning it changed. Ripple passed through the air, and then, as if summoned by unseen hands, a holographic figure materialized where no human had stood for cycles. The image was serene and ageless, radiating calm that silenced even the most restless voices. The figure's eyes held the weight of countless experiences, yet the expression was gentle, precise, almost ethereal. When the voice spoke, it was neither loud nor commanding, but carried the undeniable authority of one who had seen far beyond the stars. "We have not left," the figure said softly. "We have graduated." Those words, simple yet profound, echoed through the chamber, immediately changing the mood from confusion to awe. Humanity, the voice continued, had transformed beyond their physical forms and the constraints of matter. They had entered a new phase of existence, one not defined by conquest or competition, but by stewardship of the universe's deeper mysteries. The projection explained that this post-physical civilization was now observing the galaxy with quiet care, choosing to intervene only when asked by species ready for their own ascension. They made clear their respect for the natural progression of other civilizations, warning firmly against interference with those not prepared for such change. The message was both a promise and a caution, delivered with a calm certainty that unsettled many. Among the council, reactions varied widely. The younger species, those still hungry for knowledge and growth, looked upon the hologram with reverence and hope, seeing in humanity's evolution a path to follow. They whispered of dreams now made real and possibilities that stretched beyond imagination. But the older powers, those who had long held sway through force or tradition, felt a cold shadow of threat. Humanity's rise had not come through battle or bloodshed. It's for a quiet, unstoppable evolution that rewrote the balance of power without a single war. The subtlety of this transformation was the most frightening part, revealing a strength far greater than any fleet or weapon could hold. The council chamber remained still long after the hologram faded, leaving behind a charged silence filled with questions no one dared to speak aloud. What did this new humanity mean for the galaxy's future? Could other species reach the same heights? And how long before the silent watchers decided it was time to speak again? In this moment of uneasy calm, all realized that the galaxy had entered a new era, one shaped not by chaos or conflict, but by the terrifying peace of an advanced civilization that had transcended the very nature of existence. In the wake of humanity's profound transformation and return as an evolved post-physical presence, the galaxy began to shift in ways no one had fully anticipated. The Galactic Council, once a rigid body governed by tradition and power struggles, reformed itself to adapt to the new reality shaped by the silent influence of Earth's children. Policies were rewritten, not with force or decree, but through subtle guidance and a shared understanding that the universe was entering an era unlike any before. Earth itself, once the vibrant center of human civilization and activity, was declared a sanctuary world, a place of peace and reflection, where no conflict was allowed and entry was controlled with utmost care. Its surface was untouched by war, its skies free from weapons, and its silence now a powerful symbol of strength. Across the stars, many civilizations found themselves drawn to humanity's new path. Inspired by the promise of ascension, the harmony between advanced technology and peaceful existence, these species began quietly adapting their own cultures and technologies, seeking the wisdom that humanity now offered as a gift rather than a threat. But not all welcomed this change. Some older powers resisted, unwilling to accept that dominance could be replaced by calm stewardship. They viewed humanity's rise with suspicion, fearing that their own era of control was slipping away into a future they could not grasp. Despite this resistance, the balance had already shifted irrevocably. The galaxy now looked beyond the visible stars to the spaces between realities where humanity had gone to walk silently, watching and evolving. Every council meeting, the once empty human seat bore a new marking that spoke volumes without words. Present, observing, evolving, this was no longer a vacancy or a mystery, but a declaration of presence that carried both reassurance and challenge, told all that humanity remained a force unlike any other, not through violence or domination, but through the enduring power of transformation and patience. Awe replaced fear, respect replaced suspicion, and slowly the galaxy began to tremble, not with the threat of war, but with the promise of a new dawn. The lasting legacy of humanity was no longer a story of conquest or loss, but a journey toward becoming something greater, a beacon in the cosmic darkness, guiding others who dared to follow. And so, under the quiet light of distant suns, the galaxy stepped forward together, shaped by the silent, steady influence of a civilization that had once been ordinary, but had now become something truly extraordinary.